the Lord.
Well, it's been more than a month since the terrorist attacks on Washington and New York, but statistics show that many Americans are still struggling with fear. In New York City, prescriptions for anti-anxiety drugs have jumped 25% in just the last month. And new reports about possible biological terrorism are starting to push the nation's panic buttons. So you may be asking yourself right now, how do you find peace in the midst of everything that's going on in the world? Well, David Kithcart sat down recently with a World Trade Center survivor who shared his secret for overcoming fear.
Somebody had said to me, there aren't any trade center. There isn't a trade center any longer. And I said, what do you mean? I just came from there. And they said, no, you couldn't have been in there. And I showed them my ID card that I was there. And they looked at me like they had seen a ghost. They said, well, the buildings had just collapsed, both buildings.
Walter Boland is a computer expert. He's also a survivor of the September 11th terrorist attacks. He'd been working on the 44th floor of Tower 2 when the whole nightmare began.
I looked out the window and I saw debris flying through the air. And I looked closely and it was paper, it was sheetrock, it was smoke. And I looked even more closely and I looked outside and I saw flames and pieces of ceilings and walls burning on the street.
Meanwhile, Walter's wife Denise witnessed the entire attack from her office window in Midtown Manhattan.
I turned my head and my girlfriend screamed and I turned back and all I saw were flames. I never thought that this plane was going into that building. It was almost like it wasn't real. It was almost like we were watching a movie. I wasn't sure which tower my husband was in because he has different clients in both towers. I ran to the phone and I called his cell phone, and they said, well, circuits were busy. So just started praying that God would just surround him with his angels, protect him, keep him safe, get him out of the building.
Something in my spirit told me I needed to get out of the building. I was not waiting for anything. I looked at the people that were there, and they looked at me and I said, I'm leaving, I'm getting out of here. Most of the people, they just followed along with me down the stairs. When I got to the bottom, I wasn't out of breath, I wasn't breathing heavy. I was sweating a lot, maybe because of the heat, but I was just, for some reason, something came over me and I was just determined just to get out of the building.
Walter and his co-workers made their way down 88 flights of stairs. Just as he exited Tower 2, the second plane hit.
Everybody dove on the floor. Glass was shattering. Buildings, the windows in the stores were smashing. Glass was flying. I had to duck a pane of glass. Came about maybe 6 or 8 inches from my head. The first thought that came in my mind was I needed to get out of Manhattan as quickly as possible.
Walter then thought of Denise and what she must be going through.
I just prayed that she would be comforted and that she would not be fearful, that she would have, a sense of that I would be okay.
Finally, my phone rings and Walter called and he says, honey, I'm fine. I got out of the building. I'm just waiting for a train.
When Walter and Denise finally met up, they were ecstatic. It wasn't until later that they started to process what happened.
To be honest with you, I have mixed feelings. I have feelings of sadness. I have rage. I have anger. It's like a gamut of emotions that I go through. I'm furious at the terrorist. I'm beyond words. It's like, a feeling of helplessness that comes over you, that, you think that everything is secure, you're taking care of your family and everything is safe, and then a cowardly act has been perpetuated on your family and on your career and on your job, and it's definitely a feeling of a violation. God just gives me the strength and the peace to just be able to relax and process it the way He would want me to. With God's help, I try to love my enemies. I know in my own strength, especially in the events that happen, I cannot do it in my own strength.
It's very easy to be overwhelmed by everything. It's very easy to be scared. I mean, we still work in Manhattan and we travel every day, and we see the security checks, and it's frightening to think that we could be on the bridge and then somebody could come on the bridge with a bomb. The more you listen to the news and you hear of all these reports of, biological, chemical warfare, and it's frightening. So if I don't focus on God, then I will I will walk in fear. That Tuesday has showed us that we're not promised tomorrow, you know, and so it's making me, it's just given me a sense of urgency, and it woke me up out of complacency, because I was complacent, I was comfortable. My relationship with God is stronger now, and it's like now I'm trusting more in Him than I did in the things of the world, because He's really the only one that can protect us.
Walter and Denise don't know exactly what the future holds, but there is something they're certain of.
God is showing me, as far as security goes, that we're really only secure in Him.
If you allow God to be there for you, He will. And if you don't know God, to get to know God, God says, I am your light, I am your salvation. There's no need to be fearful. God's in control, and that He's still on the throne. I mean, He didn't fall off the throne on Tuesday. I mean, He's still there, and He knows what's going on, and He has everything under control.
It's a good word, isn't it? God has everything under control.